Hello, if you are online, by the way, and I'll do a few things to incorporate our online environment as well, not just get folks here going. But so I'm going to talk to you today about AI, which I think is something burning in a lot of people's minds. And I have this title, The Cure for Faculty Burnout. I should probably put a question mark behind it. This is not the answer to all of burnout's problems, but we're going to talk about it from the teaching perspective and what you can use AI for to maybe mitigate some of your stress in teaching. So I'm Danielle Condry. I'm an associate professor of practice, graduate director and assistant department head in microbiological sciences. It feels a little bit weird to say that right now because we were told last week we were merging into a newly formed department that we don't even have a name yet. So lots of changes, but that's for another day. Let's see. There we go. All right. I am somebody who really likes to move with when I'm talking and giving presentations and teaching, but I was told I have to stay up here for our Zoom audience. So if you see me kind of like bouncing around and fidgeting, it's because I'm used to walking when I'm teaching. So we're going to start. I want everybody to take a big, deep breath. So for a lot of people, AI feels like a really big leap. And I want to acknowledge that those fears and that feeling of anxiety is okay. I want you to approach our topic today with curiosity, okay? I want you to think to yourselves for a moment, ask meaningful questions, understand why, if you're feeling unsure or hesitant, or maybe you're feeling excited, think about why you're feeling excited. Okay, so take 10 seconds, think about one question you've had about AI in education or in teaching. Hold on to that question, make a note of that question, and we're going to come back to it later. So just to give you a brief background of where I'm coming from today to talk to you. So I've been teaching in higher ed. Goodness, is this my 13th year, I believe, teaching in higher ed. Before I went and got my PhD, I was trained high school teacher. And so I am a trained teacher. I have a lot of education background, a lot of experience to pull from. And last fall, I was asked to take on a special task in my department with that new assistant head role. But at the same time, I really felt this phrase, I'm burnt out. And I think a lot of people have been using that phrase, particularly since COVID. There's just this perpetual burnout feeling. And so that was kind of on my brain. And then I was asked to think about how to effectively incorporate AI into our curriculum. This was one of my special duties as assigned for my new role. And so I was like, okay, I can do a deep dive. I can take some trainings. I can think about this and start to get familiar with AI. The other thing is our department has kind of an unofficial industry advisory board that was starting to ask questions about AI in our curriculum. And they were coming at us saying, your graduates need to be proficient in AI. And what really struck me, and I'm going to quote one of our industry advisors, he said, we don't want to hire your students if they don't know how to use AI. I'm going to say that again. We don't want to hire your students if they don't know how to use AI. And that made me pause because I want my students to get jobs. I want them to be successful. And I view that as like one of my ethical responsibilities as a teacher to help them move to that next step. And so thinking about, okay, if I'm going to teach my student, if I need to teach my students about AI, I need to know how to use AI. And I probably need to use it to get to a point where I can teach it to somebody else. And so that really struck me. And what reinforced that was early, that was in the fall. So in the spring, my students started, our seniors, I run a senior capstone course, and they were interviewing for jobs. And they were coming back and they were like, Dr. Condry, they were asking me what I know how to do with AI at my interview. And they're like, you made me use AI in your class. And so I pulled from those examples. But their other classes weren't teaching them how to use AI. And they were really freaked out because they were being asked, how are you going to use AI in this situation during these job interviews? And so this has made it really pressing to me that I need to know how to use AI. I need to use it. I need to teach my students how to use it. I'll come back to that. Teaching my students how to use it at the end. So I'm going to share with you kind of what I learned over the last year using AI to develop my classes, and then where I'm going after this at the end. So I'm going to talk briefly about burnout. I'm going to talk about some AI-powered solutions for the classroom. I'm going to preface this. So I made my slides wordy in case you want to go back to them. They are listed up under our talk with some handouts. And so I'm not going to read my slides verbatim, but it's there in case you want to go back to use it as a reference. Okay, so we're going to talk about some ways we can use AI. And then I'm going to talk about some of the concerns, because there are concerns that general populace as well as myself have with using AI. Okay, so hopefully some of these strategies that we talk about can address burnout as in conjunction with things that you're doing for your teaching. So what is AI? I think most people understand what AI is, but just in case. So artificial intelligence is what AI stands for. It encompasses a range of cognitive functions that mimic human intelligence. This includes learning, reasoning, decision-making, enabling machines to perform complex tasks, and enhance various sectors. Particularly, we're going to focus on education. So some examples of AI, just to show that you've probably encountered lots of AI. Voice assistants, Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant. Recommendation systems, if you use any streaming services, Amazon, your ads on your phone that all of a sudden are coordinated with things you've been looking up or talking about, that's all AI. Navigation, Google Maps, Waze, ride-sharing apps, smart home devices, thermostats, using AI, smart lighting, security systems, chatbots, when your Amazon order gets messed up and you go in or is something wrong with your phone on Verizon, you're talking to an AI chatbot. You're not talking to a real human initially. If your problem is severe enough, then they'll transfer you to talk to a human. Image and facial recognition, so how we unlock our phones, healthcare applications. This is hugely fascinating. I could talk a whole hour about this, but virtual health assistants and diagnostic tools. And then there's all kinds of pieces coming out in education, adaptive learning software, grading tools, Hackback, Perusal, as he talked about in our previous talk here for our keynote. So I want to acknowledge fear of technology is a real thing, and it actually has an official definition. So a technology fear refers to apprehension or resistance towards adopting new technologies, often stemming from concerns about disruption, dependency, or the unknown. And some of us in the room or on Zoom might have this technology fear happening right now with AI. But I also want to point out some of our students are also having this fear as well. Okay, they're not all ready to jump on the ball with AI. So this, just want to put it into a historical context here. Fear of technology is nothing new. And so an example here of the calculator, when that first came out, there were all kinds of fears, particularly in education, with what repercussions having a calculator we're going to have for students' basic math skills. Now we all carry a calculator with us constantly. It speeds up problem solving, all those kind of pieces, doing those routine computations. The internet was initially met with skepticism, particularly in education. They feared that it would increase cheating, and maybe it has. All of these tools come with the negative side effect, right, and the positive side effects. Reduce critical thinking, but how many of us freak out if we don't have internet access, and probably can't do our jobs if we don't have internet access, right? So it's become a really critical tool. So with AI, educators express all kinds of concerns, reducing students' ability to think critically, write independently, be creative, all those kind of things. And teachers have this fear that teaching is going to lose its human touch because we're going to get replaced by AI. Hopefully by the end of today, you're thinking AI is a tool to make you a better teacher, not to replace. Right? All right. So a lot of the images in my presentation were made with AI, and I do have the little caption below, AI generated. This is my kids' favorite image out of this. I made them listen to my talk last night, and they're like, Mom, is this a real book? And I was like, no. And they're like, can you write it? And I was like, maybe in all my spare time. So we're going to talk briefly about burnout. So burnout is extremely well documented with a lot of research focused on K through 12 education. And what they're seeing is increased levels of stress, decreased job satisfaction, and really high rates of turnover. And this has repercussions not only for those individuals that are experiencing burnout, but also the students that they serve and those institutions that they work for, particularly with those high rates of turnover. So, and there's not as much research looking at higher ed burnout with teaching. There is some out there, and it primarily focuses on folks who have really high teaching loads. So I want you to turn to your neighbor or post in the chat if you're on Zoom. Grammar there. What causes faculty burnout? But turn to your neighbors. What causes faculty burnout? All right. Can I have some shout outs? I can't see the chat up here, but can I have some shout outs and I will repeat them for those on Zoom. What causes burnout for faculty? A lot of responsibilities, and probably tack onto that. They're varied, right? There's research responsibilities, there's teaching responsibilities. You wear many different hats, right? Never disconnecting. So students are emailing us at all times, and particularly Gen Z is like expecting a response right now. And maybe some of our colleagues also expect responses. I'm really proud to say this. I didn't check my email from August 1st to August 17th. I deleted it off my phone so that I was not automatically checking it. Disturbingly, I had 687 emails yesterday when I logged in. So whether that was a good thing or not, I don't know. But it's hard. It's hard to turn off, right? So what else? Oh, that feeling of never good enough. Imposter syndrome, very rampant in higher ed and can contribute to burnout for sure.
I can give you some comments from here if you want to.
Go ahead.
The first one is not too much to do, not enough time. Increased responsibility without additional time, lack of resources, time, innovate, no appreciation, acknowledgement for work, additional tasks, workload added without removing anything. Do you want me to keep going?
I think that's a good summary. Yep. Lisa, do you have anything to add? That's it. All right. So lots of reasons, and these kind of fall into, some big groupings I put, but heavy workloads, lack of support, which brought up in the chat. Nobody brought up this, but the emotional demands of teaching. You develop all these relationships with these students, and some of those students become very dependent on you. They're in your office a lot. Maybe they're dealing with things outside of school that they need assistance with, and they turn to you. And that can be really emotionally demanding. Okay. And then work-life imbalance, which I think Carrie Ann has a chat or a breakout session later on balancing time and demands and those kind of things. So maybe something to check out there. So another little breakout, why should we address faculty burnout? So chat with your neighbors about this. Why should we address those things? Also post in the chat if you're on Zoom. All right, again, some shout outs here. Why should we address faculty burnout? Turnover. Okay, I really like my colleagues, most of them, and I'd like them to stay around. And a lot of the people I like the most are the people who probably say I'm burnt out. And I'd really like them to stick around. I enjoy working with them. I enjoy the things that they bring to my life, whether that's enhancing my work or my well-being. What else? Student retention. Okay, that's something we're supposed to focus on like crazy, right? We need more students, and we need to retain the students that we have here, and we need to build a reputation that's going to get more students to come here, right? And so addressing faculty burnout connects to student retention and student recruitment. Faculty teach better, okay? Our theme is engagement, right? Faculty who are burnt out have a really hard time engaging with their students, and engagement has effects on the learning outcomes for those students. It's all connected. What else? Yep, faculty retention. Yep. I'm going to try to summarize what Lisa said here. So burnout's going to look different for everybody. What burnout looks like for me with a high teaching load is going to look very different from my colleagues who are 10 or 20% teaching. Maybe burnout for them is related to applying for grants in a climate that is not super great for applying for grants anymore, right? Versus I'm dealing with AI in my classroom, I'm dealing with Gen Z, which is a whole nother topic we could go on. It's going to look different for everybody. And so what I bring to talk about AI solutions for teaching maybe that applies to you. Maybe that's not a stressor for you. And maybe you'll get an idea to apply it to something else that is stressing you out. But yes, institutionally looking at burnout and providing all kinds of resources, important in the long run. So I have this lovely old professor with his head on fire here, burned out. I also want to bring up that can we care about our colleagues and their mental health and well-being? So not just retaining students, not just, keeping them in their job, but also I'd like people around me to have good lives, right? And part of that is mental well-being. And yes, correlates to student performance and all those kind of things, but maybe we can spend a little time caring about each other too. All right, so I'm gonna go over some different solutions that incorporate AI to be used in teaching. Some of these I'm going to talk more in depth. Some of them I'm just going to present. I haven't explored them greatly, but I know they're out there. So huge list of resources here. And again, on the, I don't know, the list for my talk, there's some resources there with links as well as prompts and all kinds of pieces. So I'm starting with the ones that I have not delved deeply into. So personalized lesson planning is an area that AI is being applied to. And what I'm going to describe these is you have, let's say, an online platform. The student engages with that platform, they answer questions, and that platform is going to adapt based on how that student is responding to questions and interacting with the material. It will actually navigate and create a lesson plan built for that individual student's learning, okay? Some of the learning platforms that come with our textbooks are starting to provide these kind of tools. I personally have not started using these tools yet, but I know they're there. Another one that I have not played with yet is a virtual teaching assistant, okay? This is a conversational AI, so think like when you have a problem with your Amazon order and you go on and you're using a chat bot. It's like that, but a TA. Okay, so institutions that have started utilizing this, it's oftentimes embedded into their LMS, so like their Blackboard system, and they'll have a TA chatbot set up. You input all of your syllabus, your classroom materials, and then when a student poses a question, and I know a lot of us see a lot of those memes about it's in the syllabus, and we spend a lot of time answering those questions when we're like, you could have looked this up in the syllabus. The chatbot takes care of those questions for you. So freeing up some time in that regard. There's Sage AI, Canigo, Magic School are all using these kind of virtual teaching assistants. What's really fascinating is I've seen some research coming out about this. There was a school down in Florida that did a virtual teaching assistant, so an AI teaching assistant, and then they had a few real live grad student teaching assistants who were available for chat on their LMS. At the end of this, they collected data from the students. Can you identify which one is the AI TA? And which one do you prefer? The students were not able to tell which one was the AI, and they preferred the AI to the other teaching assistants. So kind of interesting research coming out about that. There's a lot of things coming out with automated grading and feedback. Again, I am not using this yet. I'll talk about why I'm not using it in a little bit, but AI can provide very timely feedback. And so students can get feedback right away rather than whenever I can give them feedback, which sometimes is not within the next 24 hours or 48 or even a week. It can be very personalized feedback to whatever the students did. And so they're getting feedback, not just kind of a generic statement. Like some of my Blackboard questions have generic feedback on the bottom so that they at least get some sort of feedback if they answered a question wrong. This is personalized to their learning. It's also consistent evaluation. So I have large classes, almost 200 students. I can tell you I'm sure I am not grading the same on that first assignment as the last assignment, okay? Or if I'm grading some on one day and then I come back and I grade some on a different day. I might have a rubric. It's supposed to keep me, more consistent. But I'm human. I'm going to make errors. I'm going to change how I'm looking things when I read it. I might have a slightly different perspective if I just read an email that made me really angry or something. AI doesn't have those kind of things, so it can offer more consistent evaluation. And grading, I think a lot of us know this, it takes a lot of time, particularly with those large enrollment classes. So this can be a huge time saver if you can have AI do some of the grading for you. And then reduced administrative burden, you can actually use AI to record grades, generate progress reports, individualize progress reports for your students, all those kind of pieces. AI can be used for administrative tasks. So this is an example of my schedule. I do time blocking. I learned that from Carrie Ann. And what I've learned now is there are AI platforms that'll help optimize my schedule. And so it analyzes my historical data from my calendar. It reduces conflicts. It looks at my schedule and says, I've told it I am way more productive. My brain is working better in the morning. So it'll preferentially put harder tasks that I need more cognitive load in the morning and then schedule out other things for the afternoon. You can even have AI break down tasks for you. If you're like, oh, I've been putting this off, I don't even know where to start. AI will break down the task for you. Okay. Enhanced communication efficiency. I think a lot of us have gotten emails at some point from a student that we had to like put down our phone or just walk away from because they might have made us have big feelings. And then we hum and haw about how we're going to respond to that email. And maybe we write something and it maybe didn't hit the right tone. And AI can easily sit there and say, hey, I want to respond to this student with this tone and effectively tell them no, or explore, why this isn't an option. And here's what I want to put. AI is going to generate it. I can tweak it. I'm not going to spend an hour writing that email and rethink all the things that I'm writing. So enhancing that communication efficiency, even when you're not angry, if you want to hit a certain tone, AI is really good at that. The other thing I've seen with communication is, what I understand is we might be able to do this with Copilot. I haven't played with this too much yet, but it'll analyze your previous email exchanges with a student and it'll give you a summary. So let's say that student's coming in to talk to you. You have a summary of your previous conversations, your advising appointments, for instance, with that student. You're up to speed as they walk in. You're all of a sudden, hey, we talked about this last time, rather than spending time getting up to speed. You're using that meeting more effectively, that meeting time. But you're probably also making that student feel more cared about, which improves retention and those kind of things. Real-time data insights. There are AI tools that can look at analytical information and look at trends over time. This can be really helpful if you're watching, big class of students, and it'll monitor if a student starts dropping off, and it'll automatically send them an email or send you an email so that you can reach out to that student. So looking at those analytical trends. I've also done this for where I'm spending my time so that I know if I'm 70% teaching, am I actually spending 70% of my time doing teaching, or am I getting sucked into a lot of other things? So both for the students and for me, really helpful. So this is where I've spent most of my time, is creating course content with AI. And so using these AI resources in different aspects. So I want to pause for who benefits when we use AI for our curriculum. So students, we can make our curriculum more personalized through using AI tools, those adaptive learning platforms or targeted feedback. They can experience a more engaging and inclusive learning environment. If you're not sure how to engage your students, you can actually ask AI to help you create engaging activities and enhance your learning environment. We can also make sure the instructions that we're giving to our students are more clear and accessible if we have AI proof them before they're sent out to our students. Working with some new faculty, AI can be incredibly helpful, particularly for faculty who come in and don't have a lot of teaching experience. So receiving guidance on what they're creating, lesson plans, assessment, activities. Maybe we can save them a little bit of time as they're really overwhelmed that first or second year when they're creating new classes. So helping them create syllabi, helping with grading, content curation, those kind of things. And AI can help them be more confident in their teaching as well. For experienced faculty, maybe we can optimize what we're doing. So can we streamline our workflow by using AI? Can we explore some new innovative things that maybe we were like, I don't have time to try that in my classroom. Maybe AI can help you to try it in your classroom and make it a little bit faster to bring something new in. We can also better address diverse student needs, and I'll give some examples here in a little bit. Institutionally, we can foster improved student learning outcomes, affecting that retention, and through word of mouth recruitment. We can enhance faculty satisfaction and retention, particularly those new faculty, and then building a reputation. This last year, the legislature wanted to know what NDSU was doing with AI. They want us to be cutting edge. They want us to be using these tools. And so building that reputation is important as well. So whenever you're using AI, whatever platform you're using, prompt generation is a very, very critical piece of this. And so I want to help you learn how to write effective prompts. So I use the 5-point strategy for writing prompts. First is the role. Who do you want AI to be? Okay. Do you want AI to look at your question from an early college level student? Do you want it to be a faculty member? Do you want it to have the perspective of somebody in your field? Do you want it to be at the grad level or the undergraduate level? Do you want it to be a first gen student? Okay, if you don't have that perspective, asking AI to take on that perspective can be helpful. You want to tell AI what it's going to do. Do you want it to guide you? Do you want it to quiz you? Do you want it to support you? Do you want it to mentor you? Do you want it to generate your content? Okay, be your assistant. Okay. Goal, how should AI evaluate? What is its focus? Should it be looking at the originality of what you're doing, the grammar? Should it be looking for clarity? Should it be looking at quality? Should it be looking at the level? Thinking if you're teaching undergrad or grad, those kind of pieces. This one is fun. How would you like AI to act? Now, a lot of AI platforms, you can actually set how you would like AI to give you the output. But you can actually ask it to be encouraging. You can ask it to be friendly. You can ask it to be helpful. If you respond well to snarky comments, you can ask AI to give you snarky comments. So, or a balance of both. And so you might set your AI to do something, but maybe for this particular task, you need it to take on a different tone. And then process. How will this work? Do you want examples? Do you want clarification? Do you want feedback from that AI prompt? Or do you want it to actually generate what you're looking for? So here's an example. The role, I want AI to act as a reviewer with expertise in inclusive practices. I want it to evaluate my syllabus for inclusive language. I want to ensure the syllabus reflects an inclusive tone, avoiding biased or exclusionary language. I want it to provide feedback from the perspective of an educator that is committed to equity. Okay, so maybe they're really powerful in what they're telling me. And then the process, I would like it to highlight specific sections of my syllabus to be improved and suggest alternate phrasing. I don't want it to edit my syllabus for me. I want it to make suggestions so that I can decide how I'm going to incorporate those suggestions. So my prompt ends up being, as a reviewer familiar with inclusive practices in higher education, please evaluate the language in my syllabus. Are there any areas where the tone could be more inclusive or where unintentional bias might appear? Provide specific examples and suggestions for improvement. Shaping up my syllabus. I've done this. All of a sudden, my syllabus was more inclusive in about 5 to 10 minutes. In the handouts that you can go online and download, I have lots of examples of prompts. I have these built into my slides. I'm going to briefly show them, but I'm not going to go through every single one. You have the document, you can copy and paste them and try them with your own materials. Okay, so for the syllabus, looking at instructional design, assess the goals of this course. Are they clear? Are they comprehensive? Are they measurable? Okay, am I missing something? Okay. I love this one. Imagine you're a first-gen college student reading my syllabus. Is there things that are unclear? or confusing, suggest ways to improve. Using my syllabus requirements as a reference, or these syllabus requirements. So like our college puts out, here are the things we need in our syllabus. I believe we have this for the entire institution. It can assess your syllabus and make sure you have all the things. Maybe you're submitting changes to course leave. AI can check and make sure you have everything you're supposed to have in your syllabus. Assignment ideas. So this, again, taking the role of a peer educator, can you assess how this activity aligns with the learning objectives? From a perspective of a student with diverse needs, is this assignment clear? Expertise in student engagement, evaluate, does this assignment or this activity offer something meaningful and it's connected to the real world? Review the grading criteria. Is it clear? Is it fair? Okay, you can even ask AI to create a rubric for you for your assignment. More assignment ideas. There's lots of things you can do with assignment. This looks at, is this a feasible activity to do for a first-time instructor? So somebody new to teaching, are they going to be successful at implementing this in their class? Knowledge of student abilities on this subject. Is this the right level of challenge for these students? If it's too hard, how can I scaffold it? So you can ask AI to break down an activity and provide scaffolding so that your students are going to be more successful. Or maybe AI will tell you, you know, this seems a little easy. Here are some ideas to make this more at the graduate level. Reviewing test questions. Are my test questions aligned with my objectives that I told my students I was going to test them on? Based on this course goal, brainstorm ideas for activities or assignments that are aligned with that course goal. Okay, and you can put in all kinds of things like this one. I put in, I want to foster engagement with this activity. Relevant examples is something I have started to rely on more, particularly with Gen Z, because I'm finding the examples that I use, some of them are getting a little bit dated. At some point, when I describe supercoiling for DNA, I talk about phone cords. They're not going to know what a phone cord is. I'm not going to be able to use that example anymore. So asking AI to provide real world examples for this particular concept based on this set of students, these characteristics, maybe they're STEM focused, maybe I'm teaching a class that it's a science class for non-majors, okay? And I need to reach out to these students. Last year, I had a ton of students in marching band in one of my classes. I asked AI to create an example related to marching band and metabolism in bacteria. And it made it. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And they were engaged and the concept made sense to them. Okay. Creating analogies, metaphors, all those kind of things. AI does a great job with that. Suggesting examples to try in recent events or societal trends into what you're talking about. So maybe you've turned off the news and you're not sure what's going on in the world. AI can create an example or summarize what's going on so you can bring that into your classroom. I know in our keynote speaker, he brought up a lot of evidence-based strategies, which sometimes are daunting to bring into your classroom. But how can I incorporate spacing and retrieval practice into this topic? Okay. What are effective ways to incorporate interleaving into my course? How can I use dual coding for this particular concept? What strategies can I incorporate? What strategies can I use to incorporate elaborative interrogation into my course? These are all big keyword evidence-based strategies that are research-backed and have high impact on learning. Again, can be daunting if you're not familiar with these to think about how am I going to bring that into my class. Creating student supports. So a lot of students ask for study guides. Put in your PowerPoints and ask AI to create a study guide. A fillable note sheet. I have been asked for these so often in the last couple of years. I tried it this last year. I asked AI to create fillable note sheets for my PowerPoints. I made them available. I didn't require them. I said, if you want these, here they are for you. This helps you engage and keep on task during our class. Great, here they are. I didn't make them before. They took too long for me to make. AI made them in it. Creating scaffold activities for a particular concept. Maybe some students in your class need the scaffolding, maybe some don't. You can provide those kind of steps easily with AI breaking down that task. What elements should I include in a study plan template? A lot of students ask for, like, how do I approach your class? How do I approach studying for your class? AI can generate a study template based on your syllabus and your stuff. So a lot of these things, these supports for students that I just didn't have time to create, AI can do it for me. All right. Char, I'm including Blackboard Ultra pitch. So Blackboard Ultra actually, is it turned on for everybody or is it still a request only? Okay, so with Blackboard Ultra, it does have AI features that you can request to be turned on for you. What this can do, it can actually streamline your course management. And so it can actually, you can drop in your syllabus and make it suggest and put together the middle section where it breaks down maybe each week or each topic. It'll create that for you. It'll even try to put an image that matches what the topic is for you. There's all kinds of student engagement pieces that are on Blackboard Ultra. So identifying at-risk students is something I used a lot last year. So it would notify me if a student was missing so many assignments. It would also notify this. Fostering collaboration and innovation. So the discussion board, the feedback, the AI feedback on the discussion board blew my mind last spring. It actually told the students at what level they were writing at and how much they had engaged in the discussion. The students couldn't see it. I shared it with the students, which created a bit of turmoil. Some of my students found out they were writing at an 8th grade level and they were a little bit upset by that, but it's feedback. We worked with that feedback to think about how do I engage more with that discussion? How do I ramp up my writing? Okay. Supporting faculty efficiency. So summarizing those discussion board activities, highlighting themes. We saw that with our keynote. Creating quiz and exam question suggestions. You still have to select the question, review it before you select it. Improving course alignment, learning outcomes, all those kind of things. These are built into this system. I'm almost out of time here, aren't I? Yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna gloss over concerns. That sounds horrible. AI is not always accurate. ChatGPT puts this message out. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. It also will hallucinate. AI will make up stuff. We've particularly learned about this in science. It will make up data. It will overgeneralize patterns in data. It will actually make up citations that don't exist. And these are things to keep in mind for ourselves, but also our students need to know this, right? How they're working on mitigating or how we can look at mitigating. Clear prompts is a huge thing. The more specific, the more detailed your prompt is, the less likely you're going to have hallucinations and the more accurate it is going to be. Caveat with that is there are cybersecurity issues now where people are trying to hack the large language systems to put in misinformation to change the outputs. That is something I learned about in the last few days. I haven't done a deep dive into it. Okay. We know large language system is based on human work. There's bias in human work. And so we see it in what's coming out on AI. To create the images for this presentation, I was asking AI to create professors. They were always white and they were always male. I had to ask them if it was going to be someone else. And if you ask AI to create a woman professor, they oftentimes create an image that has a lot of cleavage and very large chest. Why is that bias there? So transparency in AI use, we need to say how we're using it to our students if we're using it in our teaching, but also requiring our students to report how they're using it, or we need to tell them how we expect them to. Copyright's an issue, working out in the course there. So there's also environmental concerns about information. 1 minute. Data privacy, FERPA. Oh, this is why I have not delved into AI providing grading and feedback to my students. I am not putting their work into AI because that breaches FERPA. if I put that into the chatbot, what I put in, they utilize to inform the system. It is effectively public when you put it in ChatGPT. And so that is a violation of FERPA if you put any student information into that. And so I have not delved into using AI to grade anything because of those reasons. There are universities who do create in-house work or in-house large language models that it does not release it publicly, it stays in-house. We don't have that yet at NDSU. So, all right. I'd like you to think about AI as a partner, not a replacement for you. And I'm gonna skip some of these things. Where to go this semester? Try one AI tool. There's a lot out there. They're changing. There's new ones all the time. Try something new. Maybe include in your syllabus something about AI, even if you're not asking your students to use it. Maybe just because they are, include something in your syllabus. And I encourage you to talk to a colleague about how you're using AI or not using AI in your class. So next time, if they let me come back, this year I'm looking at how I have my students using AI, working on importance of AI literacy. I'm ramping up the standards in my class, the C, that's AI work, that's an F. What I expect them to produce with AI is going to be of much higher quality. Okay, and then looking at the ethics of how we're using it in the classroom and discussing that. So, lots of resources out there. Highly recommend Teaching with AI. That is a fantastic book. AAUC has a whole series on it this fall. If you want to take trainings on how to incorporate AI, it is a really great training set. I did that last year. NDSU has online learning consortium tools that have AI pieces and trainings that you can take. So all kinds of tools out there that you can explore. All right, I'm out of time.